In this video, I'm going to explain what the main party problem is, how you might have experienced it in your daily life, and the ways a couple of different games handle it. The main party problem is when you choose characters that are stronger at something than some other available characters, which makes those characters more experienced, which makes you want to keep using them. Here's a more basic example that shows how you might have experienced this in real life. Before high school, I played in a few kids' sports leagues, soccer, ball hockey, and flag rugby. In ball hockey, I played right wing. One particular season, my coach noticed that another kid was a little bit faster and had slightly better aim, so he swapped me out with his role on defense. This other kid got to play more games in right wing and got more experience. Because he played that role more, he got even better and was chosen to play in more games. He played right wing for the end of the season tournament since he was clearly better than me at that point. It was a self-reinforcing loop. Hopefully you get what I mean now. In games where you can choose a party based on a larger selection of characters, the characters you choose first will likely level up first, making you want to keep playing with them more, which gives them more XP, making them even stronger. In my research to find if there was a term for this, I did find something similar. The Matthew effect, coined by sociologists Robert K. Merton and Harriet Zuckerman in 1968. The Matthew effect is based on this Bible verse, "For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall hath more abundance. For whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away, even that he hath." It's basically suggesting that the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. You'll also see this often in 4X games where those with an advantage at the start of the game grow faster and gather more resources compared to those with weaker starts who seem to always be behind. But anyways, back to the main party problem. A classic example of this in gaming is Pokemon. The first Pokemon you pick and the first few you catch will likely be your strongest party members. Back in my first Pokemon game, Leaf Green, my Charmander, later Charizard, was my go-to for pretty much every fight, which made him vastly out-level every other Pokemon I've caught. In this case, I'd call Charizard, my first few catches, my main party. The issue in real life and gaming you might have noticed is that the people or characters that don't get picked don't get better. It becomes an issue when the non-participants are so outskilled that they don't have a chance to compete with whatever challenges the main party can keep up with. If your main party are the only ones that can face the challenges at that point in the game, it can limit play patterns and experimenting. In my Pokemon case, Charizard was so overleveled that spamming Flamethrower and Aerial Ace worked like every fight. My Charizard was a hammer and every Pokemon looked like a nail. Because of that, I didn't utilize different strategies like boosting stats or playing with weather or utilizing unique abilities or status effects. Using the strongest tool you have available also plays into an element of game theory called dominant strategy. The dominant strategy is the action or pattern that a player can exploit for the best outcome every time. If you have an attack in an RPG that does objectively higher damage with no downsides to another attack, then that first attack strictly dominates the second attack. This is an issue if the dominant strategy isn't fun, like I probably wouldn't find using the same attack over and over again fun now. But Pokemon knows this is an issue and gives us some of our first tools which help mitigate the main party problem. Number 1. Type matchups. Some Pokemon types are stronger against others. A level 100 Charizard will probably always beat a level 10 Geodude, despite taking significantly more damage from Geodude's rock attacks. But it might be a lot closer against a level 80 Geodude, where its attacks will significantly damage Charizard. So despite being overleveled, it might be smart to swap out a Pokemon that can counter Geodude, even if it's a lower level than that Geodude. This also goes for any type matchups in a game where some class or tactic has distinct advantages and weaknesses. The second way you combat this problem is just by locking out higher level party members. In Darkest Dungeon, you level up characters. Once you level them up enough, they can't go into previous tiers of dungeons, forcing you to use a new party if you want to clear that dungeon. A third thing that necessitates swapping out characters for your party in Darkest Dungeon is a cumulative resource, stress. Maybe it's better described as the opposite of a resource, since it's something you're trying to avoid. In Darkest Dungeon, your characters have a health bar and a stress meter. Characters' health is restored, but their stress is not reset to 0 when finishing a run. When a character reaches 100 stress, they can gain an affliction, which is a debuff the character has until treated. Stress naturally lowers a little bit every time they're not selected to go into a dungeon. There are activities in town to lower a character's stress, which gives a lot of interesting options to the player. The ways to reduce stress are limited, so even if you do want to reduce a character's stress, you still have to pay gold and prioritize which ones you want treated. They're also still out for at least the next mission, and even then, there can be side effects from whichever activity you assign them to. The other characters will have lower stress the less you use them, incentivizing you to basically rotate out a few teams of characters. Or you can choose a different tier of the dungeon and go back and forth. Of course then, there's also bosses that have weaknesses that certain characters can exploit. I just adore how Darkest Dungeon was designed. The fourth option that was also employed in later Pokemon games is XP sharing. I quite like the idea of XP sharing in Pokemon, it cuts out a lot of the grind. I haven't played too many Pokemon games past Pokemon Black, but I heard there is an issue with your team getting overleveled, which is kind of the same issue as before. You'd have to compensate by turning up the world difficulty, but again, that would make entirely new teams unviable. It's a tough balancing act. Global XP sharing, where your entire roster levels up, is kind of necessary for something like Baldur's Gate 3, where you might need to swap out characters to fill a role or cast certain spells. But in something like Pokemon, that would take out all the fun of training each team. Having some sort of catch-up mechanic can also help. Some games like Payday 2 encourage you to go on missions you haven't tried in a while by rewarding bonus XP. I'm sure there's some games out there that probably give bonus XP to party members you haven't used or are underleveled. The fifth way that games can navigate this issue is using rotating character requirements. Even better if it's story related, with some characters needing to go off on a quest or something and you have to use what's left. That can feel a bit limiting to the player though, since they might be forced to use characters they don't like playing, which is why they never use them in the first place. As for the player's side, the best way to work around the main party problem is probably just swap out your team. Yeah, sorry it took this long to get to that conclusion, but that's probably the best thing if you find yourself not having fun. I find that bringing underleveled characters to a mission can be pretty enjoyable actually. It brings that thrill of each action mattering back that you might have only experienced at the start of playing a game. Or if you're in a sports team, just practice more and ask your coach to actually give you a chance once in a while. If I did, I might still have been playing sports past high school instead of getting into software and computers. But that, of course, is up to you. The best games should encourage you to swap out your party often using the strategies I mentioned. Do you have any thoughts or ways that you've been encouraged to swap out your party members that I didn't mention? I'd love to hear about it since I'm considering making an RPG game in the future. Thanks, I'll see you around.